Jesus said to Peter, "Do you love me? Follow me." In the name of God, source, word, and life-giving Spirit, Amen. I'm going to let you in on a little homily writing secret. One of my regular Friday conversations with Yvonne starts like this. I don't know what I'm going to talk about on Sunday, but I've been reading about, and then I sum up some of the things that I think might be actually worth talking about. And to be perfectly honest with you, this week I don't even remember the scriptural insights that I led with. But immediately Yvonne shot back, "Aren't you going to talk about the beach?" The beach. I had not really considered the Sea of Tiberias, the beach, as the focus of our teaching today, but perhaps it's good to start with the beach. It has been a rather long winter after all, and maybe this is just me having a foggy memory, but I could have sworn I saw snowflakes earlier in the week. And then, of course, there's the COVID winter that has frozen our regular travel plans so that most of us are really not able to get to the beach because Canada is not really a beach place. And then the beach, it really starts to sound very attractive. A lazy, folding chair, a good book, a mojito, the warmth of the sun on our face, the sand between our toes, the smooth, rhythmic sound of the waves. The beach sounds very good. But here's another secret about me. I don't like the beach. Sure, I can do the beach for a couple of days, but I'm really much more someone for the mountains. Offer me a chilled, luxurious beach holiday or an intense, rugged mountain trek, and I'm going to choose the mountains every single time. In John's Gospel, the risen Jesus meets the disciples in Galilee on the beach. In Matthew's Gospel, the risen Jesus meets the disciples in Galilee on a mountain. Yet beach or mountain, it's not as important as their conversation. And if our evangelists do not share a common location, they do share a common purpose, the giving of the apostolic mission to the disciples. Today I want to talk about how Jesus reveals himself to the disciples, how Jesus gives that apostolic mission to them, and what the mark of that apostolic mission is. We read in our gospel that Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. At the heart of this phrase is the word revealed, which creates a bond between the activity of the risen Jesus and the earthly Jesus. Scholar Raymond Brown leads his readers through all the ways which Jesus is revealed in the gospel. John the Baptist spoke of his purpose as preparing for the one who was to come and be revealed to Israel. In Cana, after Jesus turned water into wine, we read, Jesus did this, the first of his signs in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. And then there is Jesus a little later on speaking to God in the presence of his disciples. Now we're in Jerusalem, and this is just before his arrest. I have made God's name known to those whom you gave to me from the world, which uses the same Greek word as I have revealed your name to those whom you gave to me from the world. So the risen Jesus appearing to his disciples is the final revealing of Jesus. The resurrection enabled them to see Jesus for who he really is. Jesus is God's Son, the Lord, the one who God raised from the dead. In the first letter of John, not the Gospel of John, but another part of our New Testament, we read, "For us, God's love was revealed in this way, in his having sent his only Son into the world, that we should have life through him." Earlier, I said that we would be talking about Jesus giving the apostolic mission to the disciples. It's perhaps not evident at first, But if we think about this fishing scene, it becomes a little bit more obvious. After Jesus' death, the disciples return to what they know best, fishing. The gospel writers Matthew, Mark, and Luke all have Jesus calling his first disciples from their fishing boats and making them fishers of people. So all ready to go fishing has a certain understanding of being on mission in the early church. The symbolic meaning of Jesus transforming the disciples from people who catch fish to people who fish for people is also found in some of the somewhat obscure details in our passage. 153 large fish are hauled into the net, and the net is unbroken. Details like these fascinate scholars, and their reflections on what these details might mean are numerous as well as, quite frankly, ridiculous at times. Raymond Brown points out that perhaps we'll just have to settle for Augustine's conclusion that 153 is a most mysterious number and just live with the ambiguity. But recent scholarship has pointed out that the ancient Hebrew practice of adding the sum of the numbers might provide an explanation. One of the more appealing adding explanations of 153 connects it to a passage in Ezekiel where we have a description of the river of life flowing out of the new temple, ultimately watering and giving life to the whole world. So I know that sounds like a bit of a stretch until you discover that in early Christian art, Peter and John, the two most prominent disciples in our fishing scene today, are portrayed next to a stream of water flowing from the temple. And the detail of the unbroken net, well, maybe that just might be a way of suggesting that the Christian community is not rent by schism or division, despite containing great numbers and a great diversity of followers. So we can speculate that perhaps these details are a symbolic way of telling us that the catch of fish points to the disciples' new task of mission. In fact, even though we're on the beach, we are not so far from Matthew and Jesus on the mountain, where he says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations." So what's the mark of the apostolic mission? And how are we supposed to continue that mission today? Enter Peter, the disciple who had sworn that he would follow Jesus unto death, but ends up denying him. Lots of people have noted that the three denials are matched by three affirmations of "you know that I love you." Peter is rehabilitated by Jesus in our passage. Peter might have failed, but his love for Jesus is genuine, and Peter does not have to prove it. He simply states that Jesus knows it, because Jesus knows everything. But Peter's commission is not based on this rehabilitation or even his love for Jesus, but on what Jesus tells him to do. Jesus tells Peter, "Feed my sheep." In John's Gospel, Jesus will speak about himself as the Good Shepherd. Now, as he commissions Peter and all his followers, Jesus is really saying, be a disciple in the model of me. Be a disciple in the model of the Good Shepherd. As followers of Jesus, the love demanded of us is first to Jesus. Like Peter, we are to love Jesus with total attachment. If we are devoted to Jesus, then we can be sure that we will act like the Good Shepherd. We're not shepherds commissioned by God because of our worthiness, but because of our love for Jesus. And that love becomes the mark of our mission. In Jesus' understanding of a shepherd, there is no emphasis on the shepherd's superior position, but rather on the shepherd's familiarity with the sheep and their total dedication to the flock, even to the point of death. So it seems to me that God tells us that you are commissioned into my church, not because of your worthiness, but because of your love, In the scriptures, God is continually revealing that God works through the weak things of the world. But most importantly, God is revealing themselves to us in the love of Jesus. So when Christians inhabit that love, they not only respond to the invitation to follow me, but they become people who make disciples, both on the beach and atop the mountains, all the way to the ends of the earth. Amen.